When Raw ends, when it's time to begin, it's on the Rewind to Raw with John Pollock and Wai Ting. The 18 that makes sense of these things we see in the ring every week on TV. It's Rewind to Raw for Monday night. Download it Tuesday morning from the Post Wrestling site. It's Rewind to Raw for Monday night on USA Now on the John and Wai Take the Mic.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Rewind to Raw. It is John Pollock, and I am joined by Wai Ting.
Hi, John. How you doing?
I'm doing well.
Yeah, really?
Yep.
How was your weekend?
My weekend was great.
Yeah, what happened?
Went out Sunday night. Was out with my wife. We had a really great time downtown. We went by Nathan Phillips Square. Have you been there this holiday season? It's all done up now.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
well, what
really
do they
nice.
have? Like a big tree? Something?
They've got the tree. They've got all these other lighting fixtures there. There's skating going on. They're back to doing skating, so that's nice.
Are your lights up yet?
Yes, you have asked me that. I think 3 times now. I've said yes 3 times.
You did? Oh, I'm sorry. I'll probably
okay.
ask you again.
That's okay. I might take them down now just so I can have a different answer for the next time.
Sure. Okay. Because I know you said that you didn't do it.
Did not. No. We do have lights out now, so
Okay.
I don't know if we're gonna add to the decor. We have we've got like a decent setup right now. There's the one house on our street that goes all out, and it's just not within reach. I would like to in my dreams, but not in reality.
Oh, someday when you.
This is a very festive area that I live in, so that's nice.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Cool.
And you're
All right.
still nothing.
I've got like one strand of like.
That's right.
light.
That's right. You have them indoors though. You have indoor lights.
I have one strand indoors, one strand outdoors. That's about the extent of the decorating right now.
Okay. Well, that sounds nice. Did you have a okay weekend?
Yeah, it was all right. It was okay.
Just all right? That's fine.
Yeah, just okay. You know, I spent a lot of it helping my parents clean. Their place is just a mess. Like it's just been years and years and years of just collecting plastic bags, old newspapers. Just like they have a real problem of like not knowing how to throw shit out. So
I can sympathize with that.
yeah. But I mean, a lot of it was like my stuff too, of course. So like I spent much of the day going through like my old homework basically from like my entire life. So I found some stuff from like, you know, our projects that we've done together. It was really everything ranging from like, you know, kindergarten all the way up to like university. So I had a bit of a retrospective on my own life this past weekend.
Oh, wow. Well, that sounds like an Instagram story.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I will.
Well, Wai, it is the end of November, so brand new month is going to be starting, unless I didn't get a notice somewhere, and this is all she wrote. But December is coming up, and there are several changes here to the site.
Yeah, that is correct. Yeah, before we maybe talk about some of the shows that are coming up, I wanted to mention to everybody on the free feeds, this is something we've already discussed on our episode of Talk for our cafe patrons on last week's show. But starting on Wednesday and starting throughout December and afterwards, we are going to start running ads on the free feed. And it's probably not the best of news for people who've been enjoying these shows completely ad-free for what probably feels like a decade now of you and I podcasting. But it's a decision that I think we've waited a long time on. It's one we definitely don't take very lightly, but we also think it's time. You know, we want to grow our business. It's something that's very done very commonly, probably pretty much across all the podcasts that you probably listen to. And for us, it's a chance to expand. It's a chance to help a lot of the podcasts on our network grow in the future as well. So that will happen. We received a question last week about whether or not we would be making ad-free shows on the cafe feed. And my initial thought at the moment is the answer is no, because it's not my intent at all to load these podcasts up so much with advertising that people would want to pay for it. At least that's not the idea right now, and I hope it never has to be. But the answer is no right now. But of course that will change. You know, even if it's like maybe, you know, just an ad-free show to avoid somebody having to listen to one ad. Maybe that's something I would consider if there's enough demand for it. But for now, yeah, that's what's coming.
Yeah, we talked about this a lot on the talk show from last week, but I mean, in a nutshell, like we want to be growing, like we want to be having more contributors on the site, both with podcasts, with written work, and so that's kind of the thinking here, and the fact that it's going to benefit a lot of people at the site as well. So that's kind of our thinking, and if there are complaints out there, we do welcome them, and they can be tweeted at the Bray D. So that's TheBrayd, and he has volunteered to take all of your complaints at any hours of the day. And you can DM me if you want his cell phone number as well, in case you can't get a hold of him by Twitter.
I hear he's very responsive. So.
Can I say, just on a semi-related note, a few weeks ago I mentioned that Braden and Davey posted their photo from Halloween where they were dressed as Cody and Arn. Terrific Halloween costume. Fantastic. They should have won any contest they entered. They tweeted this photo out, and it got a response from Cody that was a simple emoji. That was it. He put like the dynamite emoji. It is now November 29th. And dude, the responses that I still get from these bot accounts, because we were tagged in this initial tweet, it is unbelievable how aggravating it is. I never want to be tweeted by any pro wrestler with any significant Twitter account again. I cannot imagine even using Twitter if this is just a small sample of the amount of bot responses that they get to anything. It's a month later, and this same tweet is getting the same, "Are you lonely?" It drives me nuts. I've just blocked and blocked and blocked and blocked, and they just, it's like whack-a-mole. They just create more. They just keep coming.
Why don't you just mute the conversation?
I have, I have this on my tweet deck, and I don't think I can even mute this conversation.
Just open it up in the browser then.
I don't know if this will work. I will try this.
Okay. Well, that's unfortunate. Yeah, man. Well, hey, Cody doesn't have to worry about that anymore. He gave up his Twitter account to the AEW, I believe it's, what do they call it? The Outreach program?
Is that what he did?
Yeah.
Well, no, Twitter's not for everyone. Wise man.
He gave it to the AEW Community Outreach program. So now they have 1 million followers. So that's a good use of social media. Are you looking for the mute conversation?
No, I am here, and on TweetDeck you cannot mute the conversation because it's not my.
Open it up in your browser. Just like right click on the time of the tweet.
You're right. I could do that, and then it shouldn't go to my TweetDeck from there.
Yeah,
I would assume.
This is live IT right here.
This is perfect. This is all I wanted. This would be wonderful.
Is it working?
I'm not doing all of that right now, but okay. Nonetheless, I will keep you updated. Anything else going on? We've got Raw to talk about.
Well, we got some stuff for the rest of the week to talk about as well. Tomorrow, I'm going to try to find time between this recording and tomorrow's 1 o'clock news update to watch and then record a review of WCW Starrcade 1997. So we've got that coming out in the Post Wrestling Cafe. And then MCU Later is back on Thursday, but on all week, we will be doing our daily news updates. And on Thursday specifically, you will be joined by Brandon Thurston to talk about the Wrestling Observer Hall of Fame, won't you?
That's right. Thursday, Brandon and I will go over our ballots for the Observer Hall of Fame. We're going to look at some of the more interesting candidates on the ballot this year and making cases or cases against different candidates. So look out for that this Thursday in the post daily news update slot. So that will be airing Thursday, 1 p.m. Eastern time for all that want to check out that show. I'm looking forward to it.
YouTube.com/postwrestling is where you can catch those 1 o'clock every single day live. We'll be, we might even start taking your questions via Super Chat. We had our first Super Chat today, John, from somebody unprompted completely. So maybe we'll start playing around with that function. And then Saturday, the Long and Winding Road. Sunday, NXT War Games. We got a takeover special on Up Next. and also WrestleNomics with Chris Gullo and Brandon Thurston.
Yes, and it'll be a very, very packed month here at the site. We are in the midst of planning out all of our year-end shows, so more on that to come in the month of December. It's going to be a very busy one.
Is it ever not a busy month?
I'm looking forward to the one where we say, you know what, everybody? Save your money. This month, we're on cruise control. There's nothing going on. Maybe next May. Maybe May will be a quiet month, and we can just say, you know what, guys? We're good. We're good.
Maybe it'll get there eventually.
All right. Tuesday, we'll be back with our latest news update. We'll go over all the latest news. PWG announcing BOLA for the end of January.
Ooh, okay.
Very weird. Yeah. Not to have BOLA. That's such a kind of Labor Day tradition. They did not do one last year, but they will be back January 29th and 30th. We'll talk a bit more about that and all the latest. We'll do our daily Triple Mania update probably every day this week in the lead up to Saturday.
Can they add any more people to that match?
Well, we know now the top 6 matches of the 8, they will air on Fight TV. So that's our latest news bit for this this big show on Saturday. I think this card has gotten more attention from us than anywhere than AAA itself.
Perhaps.
Tonight, Raw took place from the brand new UBS Arena, the home of the Islanders on Long Island. And tonight's show was, well, some people got fired, but you know what? Makes for great promo material.
I mean, unfortunately, it came up 2 times actually throughout tonight.
Yes, by baby faces.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but I mean, it doesn't make the company look good. At the same time, these promos are meant to, I think, reflect the reality of what's going on in people's lives. So unfortunate that like somebody's misfortune can somehow be used to benefit, I suppose, any sort of fictitious program.
But you also had the baby faces blaming the heels for the people being fired. So it's the talent's fault that these people have been fired, not the company.
Well, when you're trying to trash talk, I suppose you're looking for any associated thing to, kind of dig at your opponent, right? Whether or not it's believable. But like in the case of The Miz, I suppose Edge is saying, you leaving somehow contributed to your friend no longer having a job.
Yes.
And in Liv's case, she's saying that Becky's contract was so expensive.
Because this company, I mean, it's going to be a really tight race to see if they can be profitable this year. I mean, Becky's contract has really upset the entire structure of this company.
Right. Well, again, it's like, can you believe in it? Can you believe these characters would say something in this fictitious world?
Can I believe that they would say it? Sure. Is there any logic? None. I think even the most average wrestling fan would look at that and Liv Morgan. I didn't think Liv Morgan came across as any kind of babyface. Like she was like this bully that's making fun of Becky for crying and then makes a jab about, well, your contract's the reason my friends are fired. I think even the average wrestling fan would call bullshit on that line.
Yeah, I mean, I could personally buy that particular line. I also didn't like her pointing out like Becky's very genuine emotion and somehow, making fun of her for crying. I thought
it was silly. A terrible look. Like anyone that watched that promo, the last thing you would be coming away with that is this would be great material for a babyface to make fun of her for crying. Like it was just such a mean-spirited promo to script for Liv and did not, to me, really endear her at all to this audience as well. It's not like this got some big reaction. It felt uncomfortable.
Right. But I thought the other line was like perfectly in line with, I think, what a character would say, if they're trash talking against perhaps, one of the most highly paid people on the roster, at least in the women's division.
Well, the show began with Seth coming out.
Before that, do you want to go through some of these ticket sales updates, John? I have some of this stuff here with me.
Yeah, why don't you read what the final tally was for tonight? Because next week we will have the full AEW comparison where they had been well ahead in the lead up to this for Dynamite a week from this Wednesday.
Yeah, of course, these are both, this is a building where both companies are running, and this is also the site of, a little mini war, I would say, for the Battle of Long Island, with both these promotions running back-to-back weeks. And the final count, courtesy of WrestleTix, for our tonight's show is total tickets distributed of 5,887 for Monday Night Raw, and a setup capacity of 600. So 5,887 is what they sold. And at the moment, Dynamite has 8,658 tickets distributed. So, clearly a lot more interest in this market for the brand new promotion.
Yeah. I mean, AEW got off to a really hot start, and it's, having this comparison in the same market. And you also have, your top two TV programs to compare. So it has shown, the New York market. I think you can certainly say that AEW has made a significant inroads this year in terms of that part of the country.
Absolutely.
And you're coming back not too far removed from Arthur Ashe Stadium. You had the Prudential Center just before that, and you're going back to the Prudential Center soon. And I think you consider that all kind of the general kind of that Northeast pocket. So will be interesting to see if there is any more of a walk-up for AEW a week from Wednesday, or if they're kind of settled at this figure. Tonight, so Rollins comes out to begin the show, and he says that people might think he's in a bad mood after last week, but he is not. And he has a big announcement. He will be challenging Big E at Day 1 on January 1st as he gets his WWE title opportunity after winning the ladder match. And with that, Finn Balor comes out and immediately goes after Seth. They brawl around the floor, and Balor ends up hitting him with the steps and bleeds into their opening match. So this would be the focus of the show, was what would the Day 1 main event be? We started off with a singles match way, and it would go through iterations throughout the show.
Pretty much, yeah.
Finn and Seth had their match that was delayed a week. Rollins got out of the way for the coup de grace, and then was hit with a Tope Con Hero, go through the commercial. Rollins hit a superplex Falcon Arrow combo, and then goes for the frog splash, lands onto the knees. There is a stomp that gets stopped. Finn comes back, and then Rollins once again rolling away from the coup de grace. The 1916 gets stopped when Rollins utilizes a thumb to the eye, and then Rollins hits a rolling elbow to the back of the head, and the stomp for the clean victory on Finn Balor as Rollins gets the pinfall.
Yeah, I mean, the match itself was a really great sprint. These two have always had great athletic chemistry together, and anytime they wrestle, it's almost as if they're facing mirror images. So they had, a real great sense of urgency there for the entire duration of their time on the screen. And the booking itself was I think, pretty much to be expected at this point with somebody of Finn Balor's kind of stature in the company. And Seth Rollins is being geared up for a championship match. I
like the fact they did a clean win here. I mean, I think you're sometimes it's such a paranoia about beating anyone, but you're right. Like, Seth is being groomed for the title match, and that's Rollins' role, and this is Finn's role at the moment.
I mean, Finn had, his head stomped in twice last week, so this was at least, a growth from that. But yeah, Rollins, of anybody on this program on Raw, really does feel like he's somebody with a lot of airtime who's also being booked very strongly. So this was the right call.
And then we started our first of many, many scenes involving Vince McMahon hanging out with Austin Theory. And he meets Austin and says, "How are you?" And Vince says, "No one cares how I am. I could tell you I have irritable bowel syndrome, that I have an ingrowing toenail, and I have an earache. That's phony crap. But what wasn't phony was your match with Big E last week. Were you ready for it?" And he says, "You and I are going to watch all of Raw together." And then sits down with Austin and says, "And if you ever steal from me again, I'll kill you." These were so oddly compelling all night long. I thought they were so weird, but I can't. Every time they showed up, I just leaned in and these were so weird, but I kind of got an enjoyment out of them.
We were wondering last week whether or not they would continue with the Vince McMahon experiment by having him on TV and what excuse they would have to bring him on TV. And the answer was yes. And evidently this was the excuse. I think I tried really hard to think about the reason beyond, the obvious of having Vince McMahon on their screen, how they came up with the idea of having him basically coach a millennial throughout a viewing of Raw, through the topic of surprises.
This was so weird.
Super weird, kind of creepy, if I have to be honest. We'll see how well this reflects in the ratings, but to me, it was just kind of nonsense gibberish that was coming out of their mouths, just so people could see.
Well,
Vince's
out of
face
one
on
of their
TV.
mouths, Austin barely spoke in any of these. I mean, he was just kind of there. He's already going through the pain of having to sit through Raw, and
Yeah.
I would wonder how much of this was just Vince McMahon improving on the spot too.
I could definitely see that. Absolutely.
That's what it felt like.
But again, it tells you how much they. I mean, I don't know. What do you think? This must be means they love Austin Theory, right? Or at least Vince. It means he must love this guy.
He's the guy they've chosen to put here at the side of Vince McMahon. This very much was your Logan and Greg interaction, although Austin Theory is no Greg. And Vince is no Logan.
I'd say it was almost Tom and Greg at points.
Yeah, maybe a little bit. There's some of that.
Mm-hmm. Logan would never sit down with Greg for a whole 3 hours. Are you kidding me? He wouldn't have.
But he might slap him.
Maybe. I don't know if he's maybe.
Well, these were strange segments, and Vince was not even advertised for the show. You would think maybe they would make a bigger deal out of that Vince McMahon returns to Raw, but I guess you tune in and you realize these will be recurring bits throughout the evening.
I mean, I guess I just wondered if there was a bigger point to it all, and maybe there is. This might be this looks like it's a recurring thing, isn't it?
Well, I thought that when he started talking about surprises and expect the unexpected, I thought this was gonna culminate in Theory maybe getting involved in the main event, doing something to close the show. That was not the case. The punchline to all of these was
literally, slapline.
There you go. It was
so does this continue?
I think so. This was not settled. It seems like there's going to be some weird kind of
mentor-student relationship.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. Interesting.
Becky Lynch comes out for an impromptu contract signing overseen by Sonya Deville, who welcomes the rebellious and passionate Liv Morgan. Becky takes all the credit for Liv displaying her fire last week and said, "You had one hell of a right hand, but one punch isn't enough to beat me." She referred to Deville as Tanya. And the match for the title is set for next week in Memphis. And when they make this announcement, Becky makes fun of the fans in Long Island not getting the title match and then insults the Islanders. "You fans aren't ready for title matches." And Liv yells, "Can you just shut up?" Liv then announces that I channeled my emotions last week with my fist because I didn't want you blubbering like you did after the match with Charlotte when you cried. Someone air the footage, and we get this pretty heartfelt promo and it's not even a promo, but again, it was right after the Charlotte match where Becky is in tears about how this friendship has crumbled and coming off of this match. And you've got Liv here calling her a little baby, and then goes on to say Becky is the reason that her best friend is gone, in reference to Charlotte, just like your big contract is the reason my friends are gone. This company is so goddamn cheap.
Yeah. Well, again, I thought it was a perfectly good heat getting on when you're trying to target some sort of rivalry and hate, for the person standing across from you.
I think it's got to be a believable shot, though, and I don't think any audience member.
I think it's believable. You hear this shit all the time, like like when it comes to like I don't know Hollywood budgets, like team budgets. Anytime there's a star player taking up much of the contract and people having to make room elsewhere, companies whenever they hire, I mean, I don't know, whenever the boss ends up making a whole lot of money through a bonus and people on the bottom end have to be let go.
Well, anyway, Becky says some of us deserve to get paid. What a heel. And she made a pitch for tonight to have a 5-on-5 match, which will feature Team Becky versus Team Liv, and that would take place later in the evening.
Like, in fact, I kind of find that portion to be the most realistic part of anything that Liv has said throughout this entire program. And I feel like the rest of everything she said has been very, very scripted, and it's been delivered in a very dry way. This was meant to be, the big go home segment for these two. And Becky, I think, is always like has a certain standard of quality when it comes to her speaking ability. But the way that they scripted Liv Morgan, first of all, by using that .com promo, which was very much a babyface promo, as any sort of ammunition for her to target Becky as a heel, absolutely didn't work for a crowd that already likes Becky more than Liv anyway. And then secondly, I just didn't think Liv's delivery was good at all. For somebody who's been around for as long as she has, I actually thought this was very low level. And, I guarantee you, like on Raw Talk right now, she's probably like doing the actual promo we should have seen tonight. Because like in trying to deliver these sort of lines, she came across just incredibly wooden to me.
Yeah, I just thought the crying promo was such a bad call to go in that direction, and this like antiquated view of like somebody crying as like a sign of weakness. I just think that doesn't resonate with your audience in the least bit here. So the 5-on-5 would take place later in the show. RK Bros in the back, and Riddle asks why Randy isn't dressed like him after they Freaky Friday'd last week. Orton's annoyed, says that we don't have to dress up like one another, and if you thought I was going to, you're more brain dead than I thought. We have to just be more ruthless and 10 steps ahead of the competition. Riddle has Randy close his eyes, and Riddle reached into the year 2003 and pulled out Bill Goldberg's wig and placed it onto Randy's head, and it was equally dumb this time, and Randy said, "You have 2 seconds to take that off my head," and warns him, never do that again.
Yeah. Exactly. This felt
this is
exactly
a classic.
the same.
This is a classic moment in Raw history. It was the second everyone realized, oh, Goldberg's dead in this company.
Yep. And they decided to redo it for, I think, one of their more protected acts in Randy Orton. And this does not kill Randy Orton in any the same way at all. Like, he's bulletproof now, Randy Orton. But at the same time, like, I need to know a little bit more of why this Randy Orton character is just tolerating any of this. It makes very little sense to me. And I know eventually this is all being teased for a breakup. But at the moment, what is it that is keeping Randy connected to this guy and letting this guy do this?
Well, they're the champions. They are winning. So they've got that. And they have...
But are they winning because of Riddle? Like, is Riddle even portrayed as a competent guy at all? Or is Randy doing most of the work most of the time?
Well, it's also like last week when Riddle did the RKO, and by the end of it, like Randy was like, thought it was so cool that he did the RKO, and then he's like appalled at this guy the next week. So it's like you have these.
Is there genuine love between these two? Does Randy actually like Riddle? I'm not talking on the surface. I'm talking like at the end, okay? Inevitably, when Randy Orton turns on Riddle, will he say, "I actually liked you. That's why I let you put a wig on me"? Or like will he say that? Or is this all an act?
I guess that is you got to let it play out way. You got to let it play out.
Hansi in the chat room makes a good point. Just going back to the Becky Liv thing. Hansi says, "I took it as Becky's character was mocking her for crying last week," which was a detail I forgot. Like pretty much like Becky's promo last week was mocking Liv for crying. And I wish Liv like brought us back there a little bit more just to kind of remind us.
Becky was the heel last week, so bullying her.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Because like the way Liv responded was just to basically bully the same way, and it made it worse because like I think a lot of us forgot that that's what she was attempting to do, to try to like retaliate.
Yeah, like Liv was crying last week because of Becky bullying her directly.
Right. Yeah, and the excuse that Liv would have was that I'm doing the same thing. I'm making fun of you for crying, but it wasn't that. Like, it was not as well conveyed, nor was Liv saying, "See, like, how dare you criticize me for showing emotion when you were doing the same thing?"
Well, that was hardly conveyed, and I didn't think anyone that would have seen, like, just watching this on its own, I think you would watch that Becky thing and be like, why are you making fun of this woman?
Yeah.
Anyway. So RK Bro against Rude and Ziggler for the Raw tag titles. This is after Rude and Ziggler won that 8-man tournament to earn this rematch for the tag titles with long build to earn this title shot. They finally get it tonight.
What did they do to earn the shot?
Nothing.
Like they
lose to Riddle and Orton.
I went on Cage Match specifically to like look up the Dirty Dogs records, and like they've already lost the title match against the RK Bro, and I believe like on last week's Raw, like one of them lost a singles match.
Riddle beat Ziggler last week with the RKO.
So how the fuck in what world did this turn into like a tag title shot for any reason? Who cares? Why do we? Well,
as Byron said later in the show, this is a thriving tag team division.
Yeah. Yes.
Anyway, so we went through the commercial break. They had the heat on Randy. Riddle gets the tag. Brotons to both. Went for a PK that didn't look like it connected with Dolph. Riddle does his own draping DDT to Rude, then tags Randy. Both go for double RKOs, but the tandem RKOs are stopped. Orton kicks out of a zigzag, and then Randy stops a super kick, does a schoolboy, releasing Ziggler, who then leaps into an RKO, and Orton pins Ziggler, earning Ziggler and Rude a rematch for the tag titles.
Yes, of course.
Fine tag match, though.
Yeah, if you like generic, inconsequential, nonsensical WWE TV wrestling, I think you might like this.
This was one of my 6 favorite RK Bro Rude Ziggler matches this year. Top 6.
I don't even know if we've seen more than like 2, honestly, but it feels like anytime it's Dolph Ziggler in a match, it feels like I've seen the match 8 times. And I don't know why that is. Like certain wrestlers just kind of have that, but maybe it's because all the stories are the same. There is no story.
Rollins is in the back with Kevin Owens, and Kevin Owens says, if I beat Big E tonight, I'm going to be added to the match at day 1, according to Adam Pearce. And this greatly upsets Rollins, who does not believe Kevin Owens, calling him a liar, but he is going to go check on this. So he finds Pearce, who denies saying this to Kevin Owens, says, I haven't even spoken to him today. That never happened. So Rollins is relieved, walks out, DeVille enters, and Pearce mentions what he just said, and DeVille says, Owens being added? That's not a bad idea.
So was this all Kevin Owens' play? Like he mentioned it to Rollins, knowing that Rollins would go tell Pearce and DeVille?
This was hard. Yes? This was hardly explained well, but I believe the thing is like Kevin Owens' story is like he is way smarter than this television program, and he put this into Rollins' head and goaded him to go mention this to Adam Pearce with the idea that, oh my God, 3 people in a match versus 2. It's so much better. It's so much better. Even though this cheap company now has to pay for 3 people in the main event. But the idea has now been floated, and it ended up working in his favor.
Because he ended up goading Seth Rollins to beat him in a
He got Seth to inadvertently suggest the triple threat to make tonight's main event be more important. And it all worked out. So
this Kevin Owens must know exactly what he's going to be doing when his contract runs out, because the man is a fortune teller, okay? Not only did he have to assume that Seth Rollins would go to Adam Pearce and Sonya Deville to tell them about this plan, he would have to assume that Deville and Pearce liked the plan enough to actually implement it. Then he had to assume that Seth Rollins would join them for commentary in the main event, and that he had to again assume that Seth Rollins would lose his cool to attack him to cause a DQ.
Yes.
Perfectly.
and there's a major gap in logic that we will get to later in the show. But this was Kevin. Maybe Kevin Owens is going to become a booker somewhere.
What, he should be betting on horses.
He could be. Yeah. Why not? Edge comes out. Got a great reaction. He's just, I love all you people. This is the best job in the world. He brings up the last time I was here, I beat Seth Rollins. He's now the #1 contender for the title, but he deserves it. He's on a whole different level.
He won Hell in a Cell?
Yes, he won a Crown Jewel. He won the blow.
I totally forgot.
Yeah.
Oh, he won and then he got injured. Okay.
Who? Edge? No.
Like, why did he leave?
He's explained. He's got to recover from these matches.
Oh, okay. All right.
He's got to.
Why did they have him win?
For bigger things down the road, I guess.
Like what? A feud against The Miz?
That's huge.
They have Rollins going up against Big E. Why did they have Edge win that feud, that match?
Wait, that was a month ago. We don't go a month back in memory.
All right.
He mentions all the different people that he could face here on Raw, mentioning AJ Styles, Kevin Owens, Finn Balor, Damian Priest, and Big E. Meaning those are probably the 5 that are not going to be confronting him in this segment. Instead, it's The Miz who comes out and is accompanied by Maurice, who has replaced John Morrison.
Yeah. I wonder how long the plan was to bring Maurice back. I mean, they're great together. You know, Miz is great with Morrison. He's great with The Miz. The 3 of them are great together, but I wonder how much of this like maybe went into the John Morrison decision, or maybe not. Maybe they're completely separate, but it's unfortunate. You know, I'll miss The Miz and Morrison together.
They were a very strong act together. Mm-hmm. There were Dancing with the Stars highlights, which this was just amazing, and they're using it for their benefit, and good for them. But in one of Jericho's books, when he was going to do that game show, I can't remember what it was called, Downfall or something. And he said it was like the most aggressive fight he ever had with Vince McMahon, because he'd be going and doing a game show on a different network that is not in the NBC Universal family. And here we've got Dancing with the Stars on another network, head to head with Raw, no less. And they're all for it. They could not be promoting this anymore. So it's amazing to see the difference of when WWE's on board with something and when they're adamantly against something. It's
a real change in philosophy. I will say, you know, though, like something like Dancing with the Stars has, I think, become so popular that it is to me, like in many ways, a sign of mainstream success, or at least some form of notoriety if you happen to be on, you know, that particular show and seen by so many people every single week. So I do understand why they might be embracing it now when they weren't before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because when Stacy Keibler did it, they made no mention of her, but that was years and years ago. So Miz is out and confronts Edge, who got the big return treatment with a press release after being gone for a month. Yes, he got the big tweet treatment. And
also because they probably wanted to drive home some last minute ticket sales.
That probably did not hurt either. The fact that they got this out over the weekend to get that walk-up crowd going. And he was only gone a month and just has all these comebacks while I was out representing WWE Weekly. When I take time off, it's to make the company bigger. And he gets no return treatment. And you didn't even mention my name among the big names here on Raw. Plus, we have another return with Maurice. Edge says, "I thought you were still painting yourself like a genie," and makes fun of him for finishing in 9th on Dancing with the Stars. And Miz turns this around and blames the fans for not voting for him. I've got a crappy fan base here. Edge says that Edge is dancing with a body that is riddled with injury. And Edge responds saying that he did not complain. They did not complain to the right people in Pierce and DeVille. Instead, you came out and interrupted me, meaning you've got an agenda to try and politic your way to get a main event program with me. And he tries to get a Miz sucks chant going. And Miz points out, when was the last time you held a major title? Oh, right. It was back at the WrestleMania you opened and I main evented back in 2011. I surpassed you, Edge, a long time ago. You should have just stayed home for good. Edge admits he can't do this for much longer, and I fought to get this small window of opportunity back. The locker room respects me, and I respect them. You, Miz, know nothing about respect, and I'll give you a pat on the back. And he documents Miz's journey from Tough Enough to headlining WrestleMania and says you have people on other shows saying your name just to get a cheap reaction.
Yeah.
Which was a great line to use.
Mm-hmm. Perfect.
And then Edge was quick to use someone's name to get a cheap reaction when referencing John Morrison like 30 seconds later. So I guess he's even.
Mm-hmm.
He says, Miz, you live rent-free in a lot of people's heads. You've got a huge home, a great family. You made it way further than anyone thought, except you, who believed it and you made it happen. But instead you use all of this for your next endeavor and leave your partners high and dry to get fired. Not only a unfortunate shot here at John Morrison, but also using high and dry as like for Johnny Drip Drip.
Oh,
I thought this was like a double hit, man.
Wow.
I'll say like
What?
I know.
So what? You thought it was a shot because he used high and dry?
No.
I thought it was clever.
I don't know.
That was the point.
Maybe it was. It could have been. I don't know how crazy I am about using like these real firings just for zingers.
Yeah, no, it's there's a real life person who lost a lot, and was really dicked around by this company
and his wife.
At the end of this.
And
Yes.
it's like this company that has fired us, and well, they're going to get their benefit out of our firing by its promo material on this show.
Well, I will say, like, especially in the case of an Edge promo, I do really feel like it's probably more Edge deciding to use a line like this.
For Edge, I would certainly think that, and not so much Liv Morgan, obviously.
Right. And it's also just like in the when you're in the realm of trash talking and promo battling, I hardly think this is something that, would be considered off limits. Like, you want to look for any sort of realism that you have in order to suck this audience in, and this is one of the most relevant things in the Miz's career.
I would hope for the performers involved that like a Morrison had a heads up about a line like that coming.
Perhaps, yeah, but it's also not a line that, like, I think makes Morrison look like bad. I mean, everybody knows he was let go. This, I think, just kind of almost makes it feel unjustified that he was let go.
He said that he expects respect, but Edge earned his respect. And they tease going at it. Miz is taking off his jacket, but then says no and walks out on him. And they turned this into like I thought like a pretty strong segment involving these two for a match down the road, maybe the pay-per-view. Yeah.
I thought it was a good segment. I thought both men were very good in intensity and delivery. I like the Miz pointing out the silliness of Edge's run simply being like a series of returns at this point. Like, this feels like it's his like fourth comeback.
I mean, that's what's going to be the pattern for Edge. Edge is not going to be sticking around for a prolonged period of like matches every week, and he's going to disappear. Like, that's how his pattern is going to play out.
Right. I think most people, at least listening to this right now, if you saw both this and Dynamite, it's very hard not to compare this to MJF and Punk. It was sort of the last time we had a long promo battle where we saw two guys take up a lot of screen time to go back and forth, trying to hit each other with, personal lines. This did not cut nearly as deep. I think,
this was nowhere at the level of that segment, but that doesn't make this a bad segment either.
Exactly. No, it doesn't. These are two of the better talkers in the WWE getting time to build a story through their promos. And it's this stuff is always welcome when it's good. And I thought this was good. Just don't, I wouldn't go in expecting, I think, the level of an MJF and Punk. Number one, because I don't think anybody has the same level of anticipation for the match at the end of this. I mean, Edge naming the roster of his opponents that he could have had, I feel like any of them.
I thought that was a mistake to list off all these options. And I mean, it's when you look at, like, you go back way to the Royal Rumble return in 2020. And if you were to, and throw out the injury, you couldn't forecast that you were going to have to lose the guy for that many months. But here we are, and he's had programs with Randy Orton, a very long program with Randy Orton, with Roman Reigns and Bryan, and Seth Rollins, and now we're going on to The Miz. And it's like, I don't know what, like, The Miz is at a level that I don't think he's ever going lower, and I don't think he's ever going higher. He's in a really solid spot. So, I mean, it's a match. I don't know if it's a match anyone is clamoring for. I'm sure they'll have a really fine match together, but I don't think it's one that anyone is at the edge of their seat waiting for, as we have, two people in excess of 40 years old in a match together.
Well, let's look at the list here, okay, that he did mention. AJ Styles it's a program we'd love to see, but unfortunately they have
AJ's not in a spot for that kind of program at the moment.
They have slotted AJ Styles as the blind tag team partner of Omos. Okay, that is AJ's role at the moment. He's not doing any sort of singles programs. Kevin Owens is involved in the main event. We also don't know what his status is after this, so he's not a choice. Finn Balor is setup guy for Seth Rollins right now, and in their eyes, a man far lower on the totem pole than The Miz. Damian Priest is a babyface going off on his own thing, and Biggie is another babyface going off and doing his own thing. So, like, in their eyes, they see The Miz at this high mainstream level, and I think that maybe there's some actual like credibility to that. Like, he's relatively well known, but is it a match that I think is like, does it make the wrestling fans salivate when you hear Miz versus Edge?
Well, how about all those names that you've just listed, Way? And it's like, man, this show needs some youth.
Well, we have a whole segment of Vince McMahon teaching the youth on this show. We got the youth coming up.
Austin Theory is like your young, like.
We'll get that eventually. I mean, Austin Theory and Edge, that seems to make sense. He's like the legend selfie guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for a program for a month, I think, like, Edge and Miz, they did a good job of establishing it here with these two. So you expect this for January 1st?
That would make sense. Yeah. I mean, I hope the strength between the two is going to be the talking. I don't have huge expectations for an in-ring battle, but obviously that can change my mind. But I want to see a lot more. Like, I hope these two get deeper the next time they share the microphone.
What about Edge and AJ as a tag team? E and Can't See.
Very good.
Which takes us to AJ and Omos backstage. Schreiber asks about why the Street Profits used a fire extinguisher. I don't know why they're asking the guys who absorbed the fire extinguisher why the Street Profits used it, but says that they could not beat them, and he's got glasses on. As AJ explains, I can't see, and the doctors don't know if I'll get my vision back. He called them those smoke enthusiasts and gave him the smoke right in my eyes. Where there is smoke, there's fire. And I promise they will get burned. As he then wandered off and Omos had to, like, guide him around. This is completely preposterous.
I mean, it's actually dry ice. It's not smoke at all.
Well, for the guys that rant about smoke, it's now smoke.
Okay, yeah. Man, you think these interns, like, this writing staff is just like, fuck it. Like, my name's not on this script. I'll just, like, write whatever bullshit I want. Like,
hey,
I'm
guys,
sitting
what do you think AJ will say? Do you think AJ would actually say this? Yeah, go for it.
You think
put it on the?
You think Vince will approve this? Yeah, he loves this shit. Like.
Wait. Cross out the Street Profits. Call them smoke enthusiasts.
There could have been this masterpiece, okay, that this young intern coming out of, I don't know, some whatever TV show, like, wrote for AJ to say, like, just to kind of take the perspective of, like, a blind person, and how it's just like he can't see physically, but he could see inside, and he could, like, it would have been great. And then, but they know that's going to get torn up last minute anyway. So there's just like, let's just go with, like, puns and shit.
Where there's smoke, there's fire.
brilliant.
The Street Profits against Chad Gable and Otis. Omos guides AJ out to do commentary. The visual of this, of AJ sitting ringside, looking at the match, but he couldn't see the match, and he asks Corey, "Who's winning?" Who's winning? That line was worth all of this awful comedy. Who's winning? And he had to call the match as though he's blind. This was so dumb.
You know what? The more you kind of recap it, the more I can absolutely.
Dude, AJ was like, dude, you cannot say AJ was not like putting his all into this. I thought it was amusing.
You're gonna have a blind man call a wrestling match. I love it. We have to do it.
So Graves was trying to set things up, like, as you see it, AJ, but like these were all falling flat, and like AJ wasn't picking up on them either, and they just stopped. Dawkins comes in, silencer to Gable, which it sounded like midway through the crowd was hit with the silencer. They were like much more subdued. Ford hit a flip off the apron, climbs up, but then AJ leaps to the apron, so we got like 5 minutes of this blind gimmick, and then he was outed. Kicked off by Ford. The man can see. Gable's knocked down from the heavens. 3:15, and AJ is annoyed with Omos that his cover has been blown. So we are continuing the issues between AJ and Omos that are quietly building.
Yeah. I mean, AJ is a funny comedic performer, sure. He also happens to be one of the best wrestlers in the world. And that's just what's unfortunate, is like this man could be the opponent for Edge in a
he's now playing Prince AJ from TNA.
Oh man, I feel like it's getting worse in some levels, but yeah.
Vince is with his pal Austin Theory and asks about AJ's surprise. What did you think about it? Vince says, "It was horrible. You could see it coming a mile away." This is after Theory had said, "I liked it," and tells Austin to be more attentive. Look at me, as he's trying to watch the screen. A part of me was like just amazed that these aired, but they were something else.
Yeah, I found them totally weird and creepy. Yeah, I guess just another excuse. Like, how would this even do for ratings? With this, like, last week, at least they teased some sort of reveal. At least they dangled some sort of mystery. Who stole the egg?
No, just Vince appearing. I don't think this is going to have much of an impact.
And what's the point?
There was no point to these. Dana Brooke is chatting with Reggie with her 24/7 title, and then Rollins finds Kevin Owens and is laughing and calling him a liar, and starts singing "Liar, Liar, Pants on Fire." Because
Great.
Where there's smoke, there's fire. Owens says, "I did not lie," and Rollins continued to laugh. Did I nail it?
Perfectly.
Damian Priest and Apollo Crews. The most unintentionally funny line of the night was Jimmy Smith at the beginning of this match saying, "Damian Priest is from New York. This crowd should really be into him." Dude, this crowd was crickets as he said this. They were not into this at all. Priest meets Commander Aziz on the floor. He distracts, allowing Crews to attack him. They go through the commercial. Priest slams him off the shoulders for a 2 count, and then Priest is yanked down by Aziz to the floor. Aziz gets ejected. The highlight was Derek Moore rolling his arms before the ejection. If you go and rewind and watch anything, it's got to be that moment. Priest emerges from under the apron. WrestleMania 19 with Vince McMahon, this was not. And he snaps after being pulled down from a turnbuckle. And he fires up, choke slam off the apron, reckoning, and he pins Apollo Crews.
It was not Vince in that Hogan match, but you could totally tell that was the blueprint and that was the influence, right? I need you to come out from beneath the apron and look really angry, like you've transformed.
Oh, he looks so silly when he does this. Like, put on your snapped face. Yeah. It's like, man, it's pretty cartoonish, but they were totally going for the Vince spot, the famous Mania 19.
This is a show of cartoon characters. We just had our Looney Tunes segment with the man trying to pretend to be blind. to try to catch the mouse or whatever. I don't even know if that was a cartoon, but yeah. And then here you have your transforming Hulk monster. So it's something for Priest. It's something for Priest that fits within this very cartoonish world that Vince McMahon prefers. And it gives him an ability, like he's being pushed. He too, like Seth Rollins, is one of the people that is actually being well protected, and you actually feel a sense of momentum in their star power. So, yeah.
Rollins met with Pierce and DeVille and said that Owens is still spewing rumors. It's not a good look for Raw. Pierce goes over it, and he thinks it's a good idea if Owens can beat Big E, that it would be a triple threat, and says that Sonya agreed. So the stipulation is on, and Rollins is furious. You lied to me. So we have two liars with their pants on fire.
Do you think Owens is watching all of this? Is like he's got a checklist of all the things that need to go right?
Yeah.
And he's just like, I'm 2 out of 5. Sweet.
Now I just have to make sure that Rollins doesn't come to the commentary table and attack Big E, because then Big E would be disqualified.
He has to make sure
I would be disqualified.
He has to make sure he goes to the commentary first.
Yes.
What if Rollins decided to just go home after this? He would actually have to wrestle. No matter what, Owens is already in an advantage. Sure.
Yeah. Ray and Dominic against Shelton Benjamin and Cedric Alexander. This was the Mysterios' rehabilitation after being murdered by Bobby Lashley, who is not on the show tonight. Dominic just gets beaten down. Byron notes the competitive Raw tag division that is emerging. This match being a clear indication of the emerging tag teams. Ray gets the hot tag, double 619, and Dominic with the frog splash, pinning Cedric Alexander in 3 minutes and 2 seconds. So the Mysterios, actually, this probably sets up Benjamin and Cedric Alexander to face RK Bro for the tag titles next.
Right. Yeah. I'll have to check the rankings. Just another match.
Becky Lynch, Zelina, Carmella, Doudrop, Tamina against Liv Morgan, Bianca Belair, Dana Brooke, Rhea Ripley, and Nikki Ash. So this match was long. Doudrop comes in with Nikki when they come back from the first commercial break. Nikki is beaten down for a long time, tagging in Ripley. She gets struck by a clothesline, and Carmella's holding her face with the mask on, and Ripley just drives her face into the canvas and then is delivering knees when all of a sudden Carmella catches her with the code of silence. Dana Brooke breaks that up. Every single person takes a turn running in, and the official just stands there, and he's just watching this all happen. Graves tells the referee to go back to officiating school. He's got no command of the ring. Doudrop hits her running splash to Belair, and then Becky with an inverted DDT onto Liv. We go through a second commercial. Liv gets the tag, double knees on Tamina. Then Dana is on top with Zelina and gets shoved down by Carmella with the others to the floor. Liv then knocks Becky down, turns around into a super kick from Tamina, kicks out, knocks Tamina into the rope for kind of an awkward setup for the Oblivion, but at least Liv Morgan got the pinfall here. Dude, this went 19 minutes and 36 seconds. This was way too long.
Yeah, I didn't realize it went that long. I was watching without the commercials, but I will say, I think I do prefer when they go to these 8 to 10 person multi-woman man matches occasionally. They don't do it that much in the WWE, and when they do, I do feel like there's like a bit of a sense of, like this is sort of like a big posse cut. Everybody kind of gets to go in, do their moves, and everybody is relatively well protected because they only, for the most part, get to shine with one person at the end being the focus. And they achieved that with Liv. But yeah, maybe it could have been shaved off. Sure.
Becky attacks Liv after the match. Doudrop attacks Belair, but gets hit with a spine buster. So that was Belair's big spot here with Doudrop. And then Becky goes for the manhandle slam that is countered with the arm drag, and Liv lays her out with Oblivion. So a nice ending at the end here, I thought this was actually more effective than the promo stuff with Liv at the end. So you set it up with Liv yelling to Becky that the belt is coming to her next week for this match in Memphis.
They're trying what they can in these couple weeks with Liv Morgan, who is coming from completely, I would say, like complete obscurity in this division into title contention status. So I don't know how much they're actually expecting this to do, other than to just kind of give Becky a random opponent before the next pay-per-view. My bigger question is like, where would it leave Liv Morgan after this? I can't say it's been a good program at all prior to this, but if the match is great, if they do value performance in a match, and then I think our audience will value performance in a match. I think she would still have some value coming out of this program, because like I don't know how much she's really gained from it, for me at least thus far.
With no one ready for Becky and a pay-per-view around the corner, like you've got a month, I could see Liv winning this next week just to come back to the pay-per-view several weeks later. Like, you don't have any baby faces ready. They cannot go back to Bianca so quickly. She's already tied up in a program. I mean, your other options are to take Ripley or Nikki on just a couple weeks notice. Like, you've spent all this time in this Liv program. I could certainly see, at the very least, turning around and doing a rematch. You could do some screwy finish next week on TV as well, and then keep the title on Becky. But I could certainly see this just getting extended to the pay-per-view.
Yeah.
Vince is once again with Austin Theory. I don't know what numbered segment we're at this point. And he informs Austin how you have to expect the unexpected. If you expect a surprise, it's a real surprise. And asks, do you understand? And scolds him again for looking away. Yeah, these were weird.
There was a lot. Yeah, there was constant mention of like, and Austin Theory constantly paying attention to something else and not paying attention
Raw.
to
He was watching Raw.
You would think so, I suppose. So why would Vince be upset? I don't know.
Maybe was he getting like the feed that like, are they on the screen, or is he watching himself?
Who knows, dude? But I more so took it as like, with Vince, anytime you have something Vince McMahon on TV, people in our position, I'm sorry, we can't help but like kind of use it as a form of psychoanalysis to see what is exactly in Vince McMahon's head. And you have to wonder if this is Vince just simply, his critique about millennials and their inability to pay attention during conversation.
I'm sure this is all tied in. Someone's got to file a missing persons report for Veer Mahan. What has happened to this man?
He's been making his way to Raw for over a month now.
Dude, the draft was October the 4th.
Yeah. Wow. That long ago. They're not even making an effort to like refresh these videos. At least with like Xia Li, like we're getting something new every single week.
Yeah, there's a progression there. Like this has just been coming to Raw. At least they haven't dropped them. It's not like he's in Elias territory where God knows what's happened to him.
Like it tells me that they've either really mistimed when they want to debut him and they just keep delaying it, or they have no idea what they're going to do with this man other than the fact that he's big.
Maybe Vince is going to watch Raw with a different person every week, and Veer Mahan will watch Raw with him for a whole night.
That would be interesting. Okay. Mahan and McMahon.
Yes. Kevin Patrick is with Big E. He notes it would be more difficult to retain in a triple threat than a singles match, and he needs to rid the duplicitous scourge that is Kevin Owens. Yes. Vince and Austin Theory. It ends with Vince asking him, have you enjoyed tonight? Austin says, yeah, I learned a lot. He says, you've got to be prepared for surprises. And he puts his hand out to shake his hand, and instead he slaps Austin. You've got a lot to learn, you little bastard.
Vince and Austin, back again.
Austin and Vince, yes. So we've got on SmackDown, the heel authority figure feuding with the top babyface, and on Raw, we're just doing Vince Austin, a different interpretation of it.
Very different, I would say.
Steve Austin, the millennial.
A millennial version of Steve Austin. Yeah, we'll see how that
Austin 316 says, give me a break, man. It's been a real long week.
I'm just amazed that, like, you have, I would say at this point, like Vince McMahon being on TV, I think should still be seen as special. And last week it perhaps was, but I'm just amazed that in a week how mundane, I would say, how normal it feels to just have Vince on TV, because these segments have been completely pointless.
It's Monday Night Raw.
Very good.
Big E and Kevin Owens at the end. Listen, every combination of Big E, Kevin Owens, Finn Balor, and Seth Rollins, like, it's a good match. But I also feel like it's like we've seen every combination, and we're going to continue to see every combination for the final 20 minutes of Raw for the foreseeable future.
Have we seen Big E versus Owens?
We saw this one a few weeks ago. That was the one where Owens like took advantage of Big E.
Oh,
remember?
You're right. Yeah.
When Rollins nailed Big E and Owens took that was like the beginning of the heel turn. So Rollins comes out before the match begins and joins commentary. He's complaining about being lied to. Owens goes after Big E's left knee, so we are at least tying it into past matches. So Owens goes after Seth and dares him to do something where he would win by DQ. Seth says, I'm not going to fall for it. So the obvious question here is, why wouldn't Seth go after Big E and get Owens disqualified? Shouldn't that have been explained?
He's not that smart.
Seth is an idiot. Is that the conclusion?
Yeah, I think so. Maybe.
This whole match is structured around Owens is trying to get him to attack him so he'll get Big E disqualified. Well, if Seth just decided, well, I'm going to screw Kevin Owens out of this match, I'm just going to attack Big E.
The answer is, John, bad writing.
All I want is one line. Like, Rollins could say, listen, I could attack Big E, but I know that Pierce and DeVille are going to screw me if I do that, and I ruin their main event. So I am not going to do that obvious outcome. Anything. Just give me something. But instead, you have this whole match that's hinged upon him not attacking one guy, and we have to forget about the open door to attack the other guy that would solve his problem.
I think for the most part, when you're watching Raw, you have to understand that these are all portrayed to be very simple creatures because they are being filtered through the mind of a very simple person.
Look at me.
And this is not the show where I think they expect their audience to think about these characters' motivations at any sort of depth. It's a bonus if it happens, but if they luck into it, then that's great. But for the most part, it's like, oh, I'm angry. I gotta hit this person. I can't help myself.
So Owens hits a superplex. E comes back with a splash, but lands on the knees. Then Owens with a senton on the knees. E finally hits his splash. They're just going back and forth here. The big ending is blocked. Owens hits a pop-up powerbomb for a 2 count. And then Owens goes to climb, but instead goes after Seth again and attacks him. He gets back into the ring, into a super kick from Big E. They're both down, and Rollins can't control himself. He attacks Kevin Owens and gets Owens. Who does he get disqualified here? He gets Big E disqualified. So Owens wins the match by DQ and is inserted into the day one main event.
Yes. So we have our 3-way.
Which you can see several nights earlier. This is the main event at the Toronto house show as well.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
Yeah, they were running ads for it tonight.
They have a whole month to build to this thing. Like,
yep. We will see every singles match. We will see a handicap match. We will see, I'm sure, many, many iterations of these three over the next month.
Can the match get changed in that time? Like, a month is a long time away. What story are they going to fill this with? Who's going to try to get whom DQ'd?
Can they coexist? Owens and Rollins teaming up.
Right. Yeah, man.
You got Finn Balor. He could team with Big E.
Yeah, sure. You're actually throwing in a real suggestion or a joke suggestion?
No, I mean, I've fully. If you want to do a tag thing where Owens and Rollins have to team up together, you need someone for Big E to team with. So Finn Balor is that next person.
Sure, could happen. Yeah, man. This was a show where they produced some wrestling. They made a whole lot of money for doing it. And then the rest of it was like, it's just stupid. Like it's a really dumb show. And I watch this every single week, but like now I'm just starting to like, be able to just honestly say this is a dumb show because it is produced very, carelessly and, probably on very short notice for most of the time. A lot of whatever. Like, do we need to like go through like a final thoughts type of thing even?
here's my final thought. Tonight's promo material. I'm getting choked up just regurgitating this number of we can't afford this talent because of these big contracts. WWE netted a cool $5 million for the show tonight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
My voice is telling me I can't go on any longer. So let's go to feedback.
All right. I can handle it, John, if you...
No, I'm good.
Okay. Well, I'll start with Andrew from Cape Breton, who says, I felt a little uncomfortable with the comment Liv Morgan made about Becky Lynch's contract being the reason people were fired, as if WWE is this mom and pop operation.
They are. They're trying to make ends meet. We're in a pandemic. Come on.
And Becky has got them over a barrel. I can picture Vince McMahon begging Becky to give them back some money so they don't have to lay off more workers, as it would break his little heart. Even Edge was in on it. I guess Miz leaving was the reason John Morrison was fired, because he wasn't around. I did like Edge's comment about everyone talking about Miz, but I did feel that the whole promo was a lesser version of Punk and MJF. One low light of the night was Corey Graves pointing out that the 10 women in that tag was practically the entire division. It almost seems like 10 to 12 is a set amount of women per brand, and if you're not in that group, they'll probably fire you. Becky's contract must be crazy.
We go on to Jamie. Apologies for not having too much to share today, but I wanted to give a quick shout out to the fact you guys joked about Damian Priest's double personality gimmick being a representation of his name. Damian equals the devil in him and Priest the saint.
It was not a joke. That is exactly...
No,
that was our analysis. That's exactly the reason why they're doing this push.
Yeah, that was not a joke. That's the idea. Not surprised whatsoever, as this is clearly the creative direction we are heading to. One-dimensional gimmicks all day, every day. I mean, as you mentioned last week, Way, like the idea is to have a fraction of like a Hulk up spot for Damian Priest. I don't think it's a flawed idea. It's
something for him, for the kids.
Like you need something like that to be successful at this level in this company. Is stuff like this that is going to hopefully elicit a response.
I do think there is a way, though, to be able to satisfy all audiences, though, when you're trying to do something like this. Orange Cassidy has a Hulk up spot, but it's when he's managed to find a way to do it that is so incredibly novel that it pops everybody. This just kind of feels like it's an awfully generic, when I get really angry, I'm going to hit you really hard.
Mad.
Yeah.
You pulled me down off the turnbuckle.
There's nothing fun with the idea that we're going to... It's great that they want to push Damian Priest by giving him this form of creative, but I just wish that it was more creative.
Well, those are fine words to end the show off. I wish it was more creative. That is it for Raw. So coming up Tuesday, we will be live at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, going through all the latest news at youtube.com/postwrestling and available in audio form to all members at postwrestlingcafe.com. And then Tuesday night, it is Rewind Away number 100. We have arrived, Way.
Didn't even realize. Wow, 100.
Starrcade 1997. Lots to discuss from a very famous show in WCW's history, as we will discuss whether Nick Patrick had a different cadence. Maybe because he was not from the Northeast, he did not have such a fast count.
Interesting. I have no idea what you're talking about because I haven't watched the show yet.
Way is an absolute just glutton for punishment that he awaits. And in all of this time that I joke about, at the end of a Ross show that he has not watched the show yet, there has never been once that you have either said, hey, I didn't finish the show in time. Can we push back an hour or two? Never. He always finishes it in time, and I don't know how. I could not do it. I could not, literally, from now until the time we record, I could not watch Starrcade in that allotted time.
You do this long enough, you figure out ways to fit matches in between sleep, I guess. On this show, we got Sting versus Hollywood Hulk Hogan for the World Heavyweight Championship. We've got Larry Zbyszko versus Eric Bischoff with Bret Hart as a special guest referee.
What an introduction.
Kurt Hennig versus Diamond Dallas Page for the U.S. title. Buff Bagwell versus Lex Luger.
Oh my God.
Ravens Rules featuring Chris Benoit and Perry Saturn. Goldberg versus Steve Mongo McMichael. And then to open the show, I don't know if I'm looking forward to this one as much. Eddie Guerrero versus Dean Malenko for the Cruiserweight Championship. Should I end with that one? Should I eat my vegetables first?
I don't want to say anything ahead of time, but this is a show.
Okay.
If yeah, let's not say anything for Wai's sake.
Okay.
He's got to watch
All right.
this. All right, we're back tomorrow. We'll chat with you all then. Thank you so much for listening. We are live after every Raw, every Dynamite, every SmackDown. Good night. Have a wonderful day, evening, afternoon, and Starrcade viewing.